Welcome to the Powercast with Charlie Johnson. I'm one of the world's leading fitness and transformation coaches. I'm going to be providing you with the tools to build your ultimate body and mind. So absolute pleasure today to have friend and superstar IFBB Pro from the local King's Gym, Mr. James Hollingshead on the podcast. So thank you very much, sir.
How you doing, Charlie? You all right, my friend?
Yeah, very good, very good. You're only a few miles down the road, so normally have an international podcast, so it's a local chat for once. That's very pleasant.
Yeah, just keeping in the neighbourhood.
Trying. So for anyone who doesn't know who you are, James, just give everyone a little rundown of who you are, accolades, where you're from, what you've obviously got going on at the moment.
Yeah. All right, so it's quite simply, I'm a bodybuilder from England. I've been competing since 2008. Managed to win our national title in 2017, which qualifies you.
The last one as well, wasn't it? The last, like, old school.
The rules, before the rules all changed, and they started
make it easier.
Making it easier, to be fair. So, won the overall British Championship 2017, qualified for the pro card, and been living life really as a professional for the last kind of like 2 years consistently, and just been very busy with competing, as you've seen. Trying to get my name out there on the being active, but also involved in a few other projects. Have my own podcast, kind of have some involvement with King's Gym. There's always good things, you know. I'm not like I'm certainly no entrepreneur, but I like to be able to have a few things going on at once and have involvement. So busy boy, but my mainline thing at the minute really is just trying to be a great bodybuilder, because bodybuilding being one of those things that's a short-lived. It's not a long career, so my emphasis and focus is on that current, if I'm honest.
That's sort of what we want to talk about, was just maximising the genetic potential in every sort of moment and every day that you have. And I know that's something you massively believe in. And like, I don't mean this disrespectfully. I think there's other people out there who are more genetically gifted than you. But like, in my opinion, like for me, what I love about you is like your consistency. Like when I first met you and I first like got trained with you a few times, I still remember you saying to me, like, you'd have to wake up during the night to eat because otherwise you'd lose weight. And like, you didn't miss a meal. Like, and that for me just like really hit home about the importance of consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I say, I've been really fortunate enough to talk to people of a high level in this sport. The Branch Warrens, people like that you would probably say the same about, in terms of genetics versus others who probably potentially had the better hand from birth.
You're right.
Yeah, but yet they've been able to override such things. And one thing that kind of is present in everybody that I've spoke to about is the endurance factor. So, being one of them people that all year round, you stick to the game plan and you do that consistently for a period of years, when others dip in and out. Even if they're genetically better, the dipping in and out is what causes the stagnation of progress. So for me, it's always been very apparent that the only way to really progress is you have to always be 90% or more. And I know it sounds really extreme, but it takes extremes to be great. And one thing that really was instilled in me from a young age with this bodybuilding was that if you really do want to rise to the top, then you have to accept that you're going to be someone that's full throttle, probably from day one to the last days of your career. There is no time for true kind of relaxation, as much as we all think there is. When you get to that point and you are climbing the ladder, you soon realize that even days off become hard to do, because mentally you're so in tune with trying to progress that taking the gear down a peg isn't something that's kind of in your nature. And I have to add this as well. Breaks are important, yes, of course they are. You do need to have these kind of implemented breaks and whatnot, but at the same time, your breaks still need to be constructed. They still need to be organised.
Have method around them.
There has to be method. You rest as hard as you train. The reason for rest is to progress, not to essentially come away. It's just to allow your body to actually progress. It's a part of the puzzle. It's another piece to a much larger puzzle piece that you're trying to find the perfect kind of combination of jigsaw pieces and put them together to create this beautiful masterpiece. Sorry if I dragged on a little bit there, but I'm passionate about progress, and I know
and that's why I love it. It's not it's not the body, and it's the mind behind the body is what drives you to progress forward. It's not necessarily just the physical actions, it's the mental actions, the habits daily that take you forward to where you want to be, whether it be in business or in your physical, whatever it is you're looking to achieve.
It's certainly both, because at the end of the day, you spend 24 hours in your mind. So if you can't master that part, then you're doomed for failure, because you're going to spend more time in your mind than you do in the gym. You know what I mean? So the gym's probably 2 hours of your day. So physically exerting super hard, 2 hours isn't that hard. That's not the difficult part. That's the part that we all enjoy. It's the other 22 when you're saying to yourself, don't eat this, or make sure that you keep a positive mindset throughout the day, because I know this is a hard task, what you're trying to set yourself to do. But ultimately, you need to keep a positive outlook, because if you don't have a positive outlook, you're soon going to get tired of this whole plan and decide to probably pull away and change your life's direction, because it's becoming too hard. Because it's all perspective at the end of the day. Everything's hard. Everything's hard for everybody. Everybody works hard. It's just a matter of whether you look at it from a perspective of this working hard is going to reward me, or this working hard is laborious and monotonous. And I always say, just try and focus on the progress. So like when you see little changes happening, just try and take those in.
Take the small wins.
Small wins over a long period of time. And I know it's cheesy and everyone says it, but don't set long-term goals, set those short-term goals. And as long as you stack up a load of those, by the end of those short-term goals, you're going to be astonished with the progression that you've actually made.
Yeah, the thing for me, I just like taking it 24 hours at a time. And you know, at the end of the day, where you've had a perfect day, where you've nailed everything, like you can't. What can you ask for? Yeah, what more can you do?
Listen, 24 hours of complete success times 7.
Yeah,
you do that for 10 years. You do that for 10 years. Where the hell are you going to be? You're going to be somewhere fantastic. And that's it. I think a lot of people kind of put too much pressure on themselves and think about the long term. But then I also think there's the other way around with the new age, just, the new society of everything has to come fast. We're kind of torn between these two mindsets. Some people focus on the long term, and some people like try and make the short term the long term. They want it now. So they're like, what we mean, you would think, okay, I maybe want to put 5 pounds of lean tissue on in 3 years, which is a sensible approach. There's guys out there that are like, I want to put 5 pounds of lean tissue in 3 weeks. And you've got to find somewhere in the middle, because you do need to be hungry enough that you're not procrastinating, but you need to not be too enforceful that you're going to do yourself harm. Yeah,
you can be too overly aggressive, and same thing with people taking scale weight. It never ends well.
Yeah. Oh, never ends well. They could become insulin insensitive. They end up having to restructure their diet back to basically what they were doing 6 months ago, pull all the carbs out, and basically just reset the whole body and go again, which is just kind of a waste of time, because you're just going around in circles.
It comes back to that point you're talking about, like small, consistently chipping away, improving and growing, rather than lumping on a load of weight for 6 weeks and then you've completely fucked your body, and then you have to basically reset everything and waste another 6 to 8 weeks probably doing that.
Yeah. Do you know what as well? What we see a lot is that people misunderstand that ultimately, yes, scale weight is important. It's great. It's something that's easily to measure. But you could be the same weight for 6 weeks on end, but composition could change and you might be improving. So you have to kind of have a bit of a deeper look into it than that. You can't just assume that body weight is everything. And that goes for both ways, going up, going down, whether you're trying to get leaner or you're trying to get bigger. Sometimes weight does stick. But the changes that you have been seeking are going on. So you just need to have a little bit more of an analytical eye and to actually have a look deeper into things rather than just looking at those numbers. Because the numbers can shock you. You can wake up tomorrow 4 pounds heavier for no reason.
My weight's gone up 2 kilos in the last 2 days, but that's not 2 kilos of body fat. Like, I know why. Like, it's not any reason.
There's different hydration. Sorry.
Yes, alternation between rest days and high carb days and things like that.
Perhaps digestion wasn't as good yesterday as it normally is. Maybe you were less active. Maybe you had a rest day. Like, there's just so many factors that contribute to the fact that scale weight itself is not the sole measurement of progress.
100%. In that respect, I think that's why it's so important to have like a coach, because you've got someone from an external point of view to give you some accountability. Obviously, you've just started to go and work with Chris Aceto now.
Say that again, Charlie. Sorry, mate. I'm having a little bit of a
IT issue. You've just started working with Chris Aceto now, just talking about the importance of having a coach.
Yeah, I'm happy. So the reason I've gone with Chris is kind of no disrespect to previous coaches, but you know, personalities obviously of people.
Yeah, some
We
people
all
just don't.
At the end, you
as
have to.
well as
Yeah,
others.
yeah, you have to gel with people, and you have to feel comfortable in their, I suppose, company. And I was doing good. Don't get me wrong, with my previous coach Phil. But when I spent time in America with him, I realised that personalities clashed. And if I'm looking at trying to improve a relationship and for it to keep, be an ongoing thing,
Long term.
if I'm already irritated by personality clash, eventually it's going to lead to a lot more chaos than needed. Yeah. So I had to pull back, and I kind of wasn't in a rush to go anywhere else. But Chris kind of reached out previously, and I kind of reached out a couple of years ago to Chris, and he had already said that he would be happy to work with me. So it was kind of already set up that one day it would happen.
Yeah. And
obviously mentally, I know, like I said to you earlier, bodybuilding careers aren't long. So I don't have time to be like, shall I, shan't I, shall I, shan't I? I don't want to be competing really past 36.
Yeah.
Being 30 years old now, that means it's 6 years. And you know how long it takes to get ready for a show. You're going to spend a good, few months of a year getting even ready for one. So write that time off. You're not even actually presenting yourself on stage. There's not many opportunities.
No, so it's very, very, very limited. Very, very, very limited. In terms of that as well, who are your biggest other influences in terms of your career so far?
Obviously, you have to mention Dorian. Dorian was always the intensity chaser, so you always looked at Dorian for the
bar of level of like intensity.
Yeah, like how you should be treating your training. Like if your training's going to be any less intense than Dorian, then you don't deserve to be Mr. Olympia, because he was Mr. Olympia. So you kind of look at it like that. But along the way, I always used to look up to more local guys as well, Steve Avery. And then fellow bodybuilders that were, very good at the time, like the Flex Lewises and who else? When I was coming up, Nathan Diashna, those people. I was watching the shows when I was in my teens, and I was just mesmerized by lots of people. And I didn't just look at who was the best in the world. I looked at who could be the next step for me. So Nathan was always a very a good beacon for me to kind of look at and try and chase, because he was a couple of years older and a realistic goal. So he won Junior Mr. Britain, 2007, I believe. And I said to myself, I want that title. 2009, I got that title. 2014, he won the overall. I said, I want that title. 2017, I got that title. So I always have someone that I can look at and try to chase. But then you do always have someone that you totally admire and your aspirations.
The long-term vision.
So, yeah, like Dorian Yates was the ultimate goal. And then you have goals in between here and there. Like realistic ones that allow you to keep pursuing this without feeling overwhelmed.
No, 100%. Next question, obviously we've got some questions that come in from people on social media and Instagram, bits and pieces. So some of these bits are questions I'd wanted to ask you anyway. So I know you're currently on a push-pull legs training split yourself. Have you got any preferences of that versus a traditional body part bro split? I know you all say sometimes.
I think what everyone should do is, the thing with push-pull is something that needs to be modified. So, like, if you ask if you ask Dusty Hamshaw about DC training, he was one of the first advocates of DC training, okay? He will even say himself now, he doesn't DC train. His philosophies are DC. And I feel that that's kind of what push-pull, and me and Jordan, that's kind of the way I am. It's like, I do push-pull, but the philosophies are more important than the setup.
Yeah, then the split, it's the training.
I think the intensity factor, the set totals, the workload versus, the actual organization of your training. I do like push-pull, but I think every person needs to do it for a while and modify it to suit them. So you might find that the volume of specific body parts needs to be increased on one part, and another might have to come down, or you might find that you have to slightly adjust push-pull and build a program that looks more along the lines of Dorian Yates.
Yeah.
Like a 4-day split. I don't think there's one. It all comes down to factors of genetic recovery capabilities. Obviously, strong body parts and weak body parts in terms of physical appearance. And also it comes down to time, time that you have to be in the gym. You might not be able to be in the gym as much as other people. So you have to get more done within a workout. So push-pull is great if you can only train 3 days a week. But a bro split might be ideal for someone who can get in the gym 6 days a week without overburning. Because I find what I like about bro splits, if I'm honest, is when I'm close to a show and recovery capabilities are quite low, you're distributing the workload over a week more, so that you're not having any particular days that are too intense to recover from. Because you know yourself, push-pull beats you. Yeah, push-pull does beat you into the ground because it's very, very intense, and there's a lot of work within a workout, a lot of compound and a lot of spread throughout the body. So when you're beating up multiple body parts in one session, it becomes a bit of a task to recover. Whereas obviously a bro split, you beat up your biceps and your triceps, they're going to be pretty much recovered, within a day or two.
Yeah, it's not
it really comes down to the individual. I think all splits work as long as you adhere to them 100%, and every other factor is on point, such as nutrition, rest, and supplementation.
And I think it comes back to what you were saying as well. It's not actually ultimately the overall split and training style isn't necessarily the most important thing. It's the intensity of what you're doing. Like you talk about Dorian Yates, like you could have the shittest training program in the world, but if you went in there and just nailed yourself full bore, you're going to progress.
This is the thing, and that's where people get confused, because it's not a case of more is better. It's a case of better is better. And I know that's been said so many times before. Yeah, like just this is why execution is so important. This is why I admire people like Ben, BPAC, Jordan Shallow, hypertrophy coach. Guys like that are, they're very, very aware that execution of exercises means that you can limit the amount of actual work that you do, because the work is more intense within that. You don't have to be doing 7 sets, 8 sets, 9 sets on an exercise. You can do 2 sets and get maximal return. And that's what I try to promote. That's my biggest thing, and that's the biggest change that I've had in the last probably 3 years since turning pro, is about reducing. It's not because you need to reduce volume. It's that you need to step up, because volume's great if you're intense throughout the whole volume, but people lose their intensity because we got 3 sets. First 2 sets, first set I might give it my all. Whereas when you've got 1 set or 2 sets to do it, you tend to give your all to both. And I like the 2-set principle, because if you perform well on the first set, you kind of go into the second set thinking, I want to beat that.
Yeah.
Let's say you just set a time on the 400 meters, and then someone says, do you want to try that again? And you're like, I wouldn't mind trying to shave off another second. It's kind of that. Whereas if there was a third one, I'd be like, nah.
Yeah,
it's got to be appealing.
The first few numbers almost warm-up sets. So people do 4 sets, and the first 3 are nothing, and the 4th set they go like 80%.
Yeah, it's what they're doing essentially is they're doing the same as what we would do, but they're just doing too many reps in the build-up. So like we would essentially approach a warm-up and only do enough to get enough connection with the movement and weight to know that it's just a stepping stone in the grand scheme. So we just do maybe 3 or 4 reps of a particular weight to know that it's comfortable and to have our body adjust to that. And then we move up, rather than going into those 10, 12 reps parameters where you actually start to cause some fatigue. You're trying to avoid fatigue on the way up. We're just trying to activate. So it's activation versus fatigue. We don't want fatigue.
Preparing for the main event.
Exactly. It's simply that. It's literally that.
Obviously, we're talking about training execution. That's a big thing that, like, personally as well, has massively changed for me the last 6 to 12 months, having spent some time with Ben as well.
Yes.
What do you think you've changed maybe recently, last 12 to 18 months in particular? Anything specifically in terms of exercises you swapped in or out, or you finding more effective? I know you've been harping on using the V squat in Kings a lot for legs now. I had to go on that the other day. It's pretty decent, to be fair. Like anything in particular you've like noticed that you've changed that's made a big difference?
I've admittedly pulled away from a lot of my free movement exercises like barbell rows and stuff. And force myself to find movements that have, bracing as part of their execution. So anything that allows me to kind of brace my torso, stabilization. So where I can really keep things fixed and keep form throughout the set immaculate. I think there is place for every exercise, like barbell rows, they have their place. But I just noticed over the years, certain exercises didn't yield results for me. They didn't make me look better. And it was funny because I was actually looking back to when I trained with Steve Avery a few years ago, and we did Y3T, and a couple of our weeks were lighter weight, but more machine work. And I remember the detail and the qualities of my muscle when I was doing that. And it kind of just struck a chord in my head where I was like, crap. I remember now when I was doing a lot of these machine exercises and I was really strict, my muscles actually looked better. And that's what you got to remember. Like, this is bodybuilding. Like the way that you get to your best physique doesn't have to be the most impressive. What has to be the most impressive is the physique.
Yeah, that's the end goal you're looking for.
Yeah, like it isn't about, you know, I love lifting heavy. Yes, I do. And I love lifting free weights. But if I'm going in the gym and lifting those free weights for 6 months brings virtually no progress to how I aesthetically look for the stage, then I have to question, am I a bodybuilder or am I not? And it got to the point where I was questioning that. So I need to make change, because there was a few years where I didn't progress. And I can really honestly put my hand, you know, on my heart and say, I think it's because I got sloppy with my training in terms of why I was training. It's not that I wasn't training hard. I was training extremely hard. I was doing some silly big lifts. But for the fact of being a bodybuilder, I went down the wrong path.
Yeah.
And I just had to find myself again. And I found myself again with this change of movements and using exercises that target muscles rather than the entire body. It's quite honestly, you just have to pick exercises that kind of only beat up that body part, and you just make sure that you do it as hard as you can rather than smashing your whole body to pieces. I don't deadlift no more. You can do a normal deadlift. I haven't done a normal deadlift in I don't know when I last done one.
Sure, I'm exactly the same to you. I love deadlifting. It's fun for like the exercise, just like doing it, but it has absolutely no crossover to anything that would benefit me, and it destroys me for 6 days. I can't train, like my leg training's in crap.
It gave me nothing in terms of physical appearance.
No, nothing.
And as I say, if you're training for physical change and how you look, not just, you know, how much you can perform, and you have to sometimes say goodbye to the exercises you enjoy.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sad, not sad, I don't know if it's the right word to use, but it's
sad truth. It is a sad truth, because deadlifts are fun.
I just like doing it, but it wipes me out so much for the next few days. It affects the rest of my training. Yeah. And then it's not conducive to the end goal of what I personally want. Probably what
exactly. It's not. It will drain you, and it will interrupt with recovery. It'll interrupt with actual, like, your ability to assess your workouts and actually construct something that's progressive, because it overwhelms you with the excitement of the endorphins, the excitement of the weights going up, because it's easy to measure your strength increasing, because it's a strength increase that's very easy to monitor. Like, you can do a deadlift 1 week, you might hit 200. The next 3 weeks later, you do 200, and it makes you feel great. But that's not, like you say, it's not conducive to bodybuilding.
No. You said obviously you had a few years where you stalled in terms of progress. What was the big catalyst for you that changed, that helped you step up and then really click back into gear again to maximize everything you're doing?
Quite simply, just being absolutely fed up with not progressing. I got to a point where I was like, man, I've spent so much time. I've been so close to being a pro. I remember in 2014, obviously I won my class and I missed out on the overall to Nathan Diasha. And then I had a couple of years after that where my places just went to crap. And just spending a bit of time thinking, Jesus, James, like, it's either a break or nothing. You know, you've given everything to this. You've either got to push that 1% harder and make it happen now, or call it a day. And I just could not have one more try. And somehow, I think the opening of King's Gym, I think when we opened King's, it birthed new life into my bodybuilding, because I felt like I had something new to work with.
A new home.
Like a new tool in my arsenal and a new place to call home, because I think I outgrew my old gym.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made it hard. I was a big fish in a little pond, and it was very easy to be the guy in there. And then we opened King's, and it brought a much wider scope of personalities in there who are successful and who are good at what they do. And it meant that I had to step up or be forgotten. And I 100% admit now, like, there is a certain amount of ego in this, because I always want to be the person who is the best. Of course I do. And as does anyone who's involved in bodybuilding. So, you know, I want to be able to go in King's or any gym and be the one that everyone says, wow, that's James. He's a very good bodybuilder. And it's not because I want people to kiss my ass. I just want people to, I want to be able to say to myself, I've worked that hard that I've got myself into that position. It's really not about appraisal. It's about me being able to acknowledge my own successes from my own choices in life, because I chose a life, in all honesty, that was pretty against the grain. You know, I avoided doing what most people do because I felt that there might be a chance to break through.
Yeah.
And somehow, some way, it did work out. It doesn't normally work out for bodybuilders. Not like this. Not in England. It's very few bodybuilders that, you know, can pay their mortgage because they're a bodybuilder. So I am blessed, and I love that, and that's why I don't know, I suppose I think the main catalyst for my progress was Kings.
No, that's awesome. It's funny how, it's not funny, but how the sequence of events, how things can knock on from there. Because obviously Pink's gym was closing anyway. If that perhaps hadn't happened, then Kings might not have opened, and that might not have given you the spur to take you up another level.
I'd be working in Tesco's right now. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I'd be working a very a standardized job, because I'm not a skilled person. I don't have the ability to kind of learn fast. I'm quite a slow learner. So therefore, if I choose to try and become something, it takes a long time. And that's why I didn't want to give up on the bodybuilding, because I started it very young. I don't learn quick. I'm probably, if anything, I might have a level of somewhat disability with learning, because it's always been something that's very difficult for me, even in school. You know, when I was in school, because of that, I used to bunk a lot because I just couldn't hack it, and I used to not turn up. I used to go skating instead, because I just couldn't take in information and process it and turn it into results.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I just think I'm so fortunate how things have worked out.
No, 100%. You refer to skating. Can you still skateboard now at nearly 300 pounds?
I was actually, no, so you see this thing, I was inline skating.
Oh, inline skating, okay. Actually, remember
I don't know if I still can. I don't know, but I was on Amazon the other day, and I was one click away from getting another pair of skates.
The thing is, like with it's not worth the risk with your career. Like, I mean, like one fucking slip and knee's gone, and you're like,
This is the thing. I do you know what though? All the years that I skated, I never had a proper injury. So I was just thinking, maybe I'm that good.
You're a bit lighter then,
though. I was a bit lighter back then, I have to say. I am tempted to give it a go just for comedy's sake. I think it'd be an excellent video, you know, Pro Bodybuilder.
Yeah, as long as you film it, put it on the Train by JP site.
I would love to. I'll do a day of skating and I'll just put it on there. I think that'd be fantastic. We just show that we're not like one trick ponies. You know what I mean? There's other people. We're not just you know, meat and weights.
World's first 300 pounds inline skater.
Well, there you go. It's easy. It's probably not been done, so we can just claim that and get in the Guinness Book of Records. Nice and easy.
Bosh, done. That's one. Let's roll into the next question. So we had someone's asking in terms of digestive tips when you're looking to try and grow. Obviously, you've pushed food hard previously in the past. Have you found any ways to try and mitigate that feeling of like that you're bloated all the time and heavy? Is there anything you particularly like in terms of a pre-workout meal that sits well?
I think the biggest beneficial factor to being able to push the food is activity. Like I can push the food as much as I like if I do morning cardio. Yeah. Honestly, I can push the food way up. And I can also push the food way up if I introduce, you know, like midday walks in between meals.
Yeah.
Just being on your feet. Like if you struggle with digestion and you're trying to grow, honestly, it's not about throwing enzymes down your neck or probiotics. It's about improving your body's capability to process and create energy. And energy demand is the best treatment for appetite suppressing problems. You know what I mean? So
yeah, 100%.
Your meals down, I promise you, don't think it's going to be sorted by throwing a couple of pills down your neck. It's really not. Get yourself out in the morning and do a walk, do cardio. I know you're a massive advocate of
mate, I do it every day just to get like digestively. It's the main reason.
It has so many good factors to it. I mean, you were discussing the other day, actually, like obviously the mental aspects of it as well as the physical. But physically, there is nothing better to treat problems with digestion. And yeah, like some people might have bad digestion. They do one day of cardio and go, oh, I still feel rough. Do 2 weeks of that and see what happens.
Yeah. You've got to be consistent with whatever you're trying. You can't do it for a day and then expect it to fix
After 2 weeks, I guarantee by breakfast time, you're like, wow, I'm hungry for breakfast.
Yeah.
And that's how you need to be. That's how you should be every morning.
100%.
So other ways of helping is obviously you're probably not training hard enough because you're not creating appetite demand. So if you're in the gym and you're really being very poncy with your exercises and not putting enough energy into the actual workout, then you're giving your body no reason to be hungry. That's another thing. But also what I would say as well, if you're finding that a problem, then maybe let's say you're training 4 days a week, throw one extra day of training in. It might help your appetite as well because it's, again, more activity.
Yes, create more of a demand.
Yeah, I just find activity is a blessing when it comes to appetite. And also not overindulging in any particular meals, Charlie. Like when you don't, like, if you miss a meal, don't like squeeze 2 meals together, because what happens is you just get backed up. If any particular meal is too big, that's when the issues I find start to occur, because it just becomes too much for your body to process, and half of it lingers around for hours on end, and then you end up getting backlogged, and you never catch up. You have to sleep for 10 hours. You'd have to sleep for 10 hours to back to default again, which you don't want to be doing. It's just wasting your days and wasting your opportunities to grow. So keep your meals of a certain size, 8, I'm going to say ounces because I've been doing everything ounces, but let's say 200 to 220 grams of meat per meal cooked, tops. So you're not overindulging. And with carbohydrates, I tend to have what's considered, 2 cups of rice in a few meals a day at tops, which is probably about 100 grams of carbs from rice. So it's probably about 125 dry weight maximum. And I'm a pretty heavy guy. So if you look at me and if you compare, yourself to me, and probably realize you probably don't have to eat as much as that. Because I know guys that are lighter than me that are trying to eat, maybe 300 grams of meat per meal. And it's like, wow,
it's way too much.
Really? Yeah. And some of the amounts of carbs I've seen people eating. But then also, again, trying to add to that food choices as well. Digestibility, like you said earlier. Have I got any particular meals I like pre-workout that digest well? Yes. I tend to opt for, I'm a yogurt fan. I love yogurt. And I know a lot of coaches out there like anti-dairy. But if it gives you no problems, why not have it?
Yeah, that's why I think everyone needs to try things themselves and get their own opinion on how they feel.
Honestly, and look at how easy it is to get carbohydrates. If you choose a quite highly sugared yogurt, like I get a Sainsbury's own Greek yogurt style with honey, and it's got 60 grams of carbs per pot. That's an easy 60 grams there that I don't even feel go in. And I have a friend that sits in Spain, actually. When I was in Spain doing camp,
Barcelona,
the owner of the gym, he's a very good bodybuilder. He's an elite pro. So he has essentially a pro card, but it's just with the other federation. He carbs up heavy on ice cream. And I know why, because it works. Because I could eat ice cream. I get no problems with dairy.
Yeah, I'll be the same to you, fair.
None at all. I could eat ice cream tonight and I'll look great tomorrow if I was in shape. So you just have to find what foods work for you. Like, don't think that you have to follow the standard. Everyone carbs up on potato or eats potato for their meals. You might find you eat potato on a daily basis and find you feel bloated. So tell the potato to go elsewhere and switch it for rice. Who knows? You might be fine with pasta. There is no wrong or right answer in this bodybuilding. Or even in diets in general. I know I'm saying bodybuilding, but to be fair, this applies to anyone who's health conscious and wants to kind of eat well.
No, 100% agree with that. You have to just make up your own mind and listen to your own biofeedback of your body. I think some people are too, I don't know, ignorant's the right word, but they're just unaware of how they feel sometimes. And I think it's just being conscious.
Yeah.
Like, I've eaten this, I feel a bit shit. Put 2 and 2 together. That's probably why.
Yeah. It's just a case of putting 2 and 2 together. You have to experiment a little bit. Maybe do a day, do a whole day of where you eat carb rotation A. Maybe day 2 you do a carb rotation B, which was different sources of carbs. See which day you felt better, and eliminate the ones that made you not feel so good. Again, this is a long-term thing, so don't feel bad that you're spending a little bit of time trying to work your body out, because when you do work your body out and you've got that formula, it's going to take you a long way.
There's never like one set correct answer, because your body's a moving and adapting machine. So whatever might work now might not work well in 3 months.
It can change. You could eat egg whites today and for the next 300 days, and then on day 301, all of a sudden they stop digesting.
Here's an easy one. I don't know if you get the same. I go through phases where I love eating a certain food, and so I'll just eat that, and then I'll get fed up of it. And part of that I think is probably digestively, almost your body doesn't want that anymore. So then I'll go and eat something else. So I'll rotate between like white fish to chicken or potato to rice, or like I'll get rid of cereals just because I don't fancy it. It's probably for a reason.
There's something going on. I from my understanding, and don't quote me, but I believe that when you do build intolerances to food, it's because you've been subject to them. Yeah. So it doesn't come from lack of; it comes from being subject to them. So perhaps you do build certain intolerances with overuse of certain things. So if a food type has been going in your body consistently for a long, long time, perhaps there is a likelihood that your body starts to reject.
So it's slightly sacrilege, bearing in mind I'm sitting here with a Coca Pop Pump t-shirt on, but I've gone off cereal massively recently.
So what have you switched?
I've switched it. I've increased I'm having more white potato after training and swapped it for rice cakes with sweetener on it, because I like rice cakes. I like dry food, so I have a load of rice cakes, and I find that really
like hydrating carbohydrates such as cream of rice or rice. Anything that actually absorbs water can make you feel quite bloaty. So if you choose dry options that don't actually have any kind of water intake, it feels like there's less volume. It doesn't make you feel too heavy.
Yeah, 100%. 100% would agree with that. 100% would agree with that.
Also, I suppose what they say, just before we go on, about the whole, I don't know how true you know about stomach acid, obviously. I imagine the more fluid I feel like this. Let's say, if I drink this and I eat 10 minutes later, I'm not going to say I'm really super uncomfortable. It'll be more uncomfortable than if I haven't drunk.
That's a big change I've made, is reducing the amount of fluid that I drink when eating meals. In particular, like, so my post-workout meal, I'll purposely not have a drink with it because I know it's going to be a big meal. And if I have half a litre of fluid with that as well, it's just going to sit on my stomach. Yeah, it's just going to blow up.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the same with, I love like fizzy drink like Pepsi Max and things like that. Like, I won't ever drink that with a meal because I know it's just going to bloat me out.
You feel what you do. You feel huge. You feel huge for ages. And that's saying something. You know? Take that as, again, it's biofeedback.
Yeah, it's just listening to your body and how you feel. One interesting thing that I know you've implemented, I think, from working with your previous coach, is testing your fasting blood glucose, or blood glucose post-workout as well. Do you still find that's a big benefit in terms of like really narrowing down and maximising your time of when to eat?
Yeah, I think so. I think those two windows are the most beneficial. I think you could be really anal and do it more, but you're just going to end up pricking your finger all day for the sake of it. But I think those two are great just to keep an eye on your own sensitivity, because then you know how your body's dealing with carbohydrates. Fasted is great because then you know how well your body's processed everything overnight, and if it's been able to eliminate, such carbs, and if you've got a good enough insulin response and whatnot. And then I think the same with post-workout. It's good to see, if you're especially someone who uses an intra-workout carbohydrate, how well your body has processed those carbohydrates during training and utilize them and put them to action and put them to use. So if you come out of training and blood sugar is ridiculously high, then your body's probably struggling with the amount of carbohydrates you're taking in during training, or your body's ability to digest whilst training is not as good as perhaps some other people's.
Yeah, 100%.
When you're training, your body's trying to fight. There's two nervous systems, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Everything's trying to fight, and one, drinking is from one and training is from another, and there's a clash. And if your body's not able to do both, maybe the feedback from the blood glucose monitor would tell you perhaps you're not the type of person that should be having intra-workout, because your body can't do nothing with it. Whereas for me, I know I can, because my body processes it well. So for me, it allows me to know how functional and how optimal my body is on my current plan.
Because I know people will ask this, do you have a set range you're going to try to get your blood glucose down to before you next meal?
Yeah, I think 4.5 in English. So it's about 80 in American.
What, 4.5 or below?
Yeah, so if it's 4.5, I'm ready to eat, and anything below, practically. So I think that's a good. That tells you that your body's pretty damn sensitive. It's pretty good. And
utilising food and turning it over.
Yeah, because again, like if I came home and my blood sugar was too high, I know my body's still trying to soak up those carbohydrates, or that my body's to load of glucose into me because of the response to training. So I still let that even ride down, because your body's natural response to training as well. If you are putting blood sugar right down, you're still in the gym, your body will dump its own glucose in there. So therefore, your blood sugar can actually go up. So you have to kind of let it ride. So when I get home from the gym, I don't immediately do my blood sugar and eat. I would do my blood sugar, I'd have a shower, then I'll come back down, do my blood sugar again, and often it's dropped quite a lot between that time. That's when I would eat. So I don't eat probably for about 45 minutes to an hour after training.
Yeah, that's generally what I find is about right. And I find the bigger the body part you train, the more time you need, because your body's so stressed and in that stressed like fight or flight mode that you need to let it calm down.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing as well is that you've had intra-workout, so you've essentially eaten while you've trained, so don't feel like you're in a rush to eat post-workout.
Yeah, I think people, like, that's the biggest misconception, is people think like, as soon as you put the weight down, you've got to have a post-workout treat within a second, otherwise you're going to waste away.
Don't get me wrong, if you're someone that trains fasted or something like that, yes, but most people nowadays, we've got carbohydrates, we've got essential aminos, creatine, everything going in during training. You're far from catabolic.
Yeah, the machine is fueled. Don't worry about it.
Absolutely. You've started recovery before you've even left the gym.
No, 100%. 100%. Sorry. In regards to, obviously, we touched on intra-workout nutrition there. Obviously, you're using carbs intra-workout. I presume you use creatine, essential amino acids. Do you add glutamine? Anything else in there?
Yeah, so because obviously I've got to train my GP range. So we have the in our MPS Max, we actually have hydrolyzed whey protein in there, so a full complete protein. Essential aminos in there. We have glutathione in there. We have glutamine in there. In the Sustain, which is the carbohydrate formula, I have the Creapure in there, the cyclic dextrin, the Carnipure. So we got everything that's beneficial during training basically is in what I put in my drink. And if I wasn't with training my JP, when we didn't have the supplements, I was making it myself. So I would always have had like essential aminos or Pepto Pro. I would have had cyclic dextrin because that's the best carbohydrate in my personal opinion. And then I would have always put Creapure in there with perhaps some. I always used to like having not carnitine, citrulline.
Yeah,
in my workout just for blood. It helps just keep you nice and full. So those are the ingredients that I would suggest if you are making your own concoction that you want to kind of make sure that you have present, because they do help. Even sea salt, a little bit of sea salt in there as well.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of adding electrolytes, I think, into your workout. I think a big thing a lot of people don't do is add enough salt onto their food, and particularly training hard and a lot.
Do you know who it was who got me salt in my food quite heavy? It was actually Sasan. Because
Really?
I was watching Sassy, and I was like, he was putting like 6 grains of salt. And he said something to me once about, when you're coming into a show and you're going to manipulate sodium on those last days, how the hell do you do it if you're not measuring it normally?
It's very, very good point.
That's true. So if I say if at the minute I'm doing 4 grinds per meal and I've got to put it down by half when it comes to showtime for a few days, you go 2 grinds per meal. It's very easy. So that's how I do it now. So all year round, I know how much sodium.
See, this is what I come back to about you being consistent, because you got your shit on lockdown. You know what's what, whereas most people haven't got a clue.
Yeah, you have to. At the end of the day, you seek perfection, and perfection takes perfection.
Yeah, it's structure and consistency.
It is, absolutely, it is. Structure. And we're the type of people as well. We'll always look for that 1%. If a few grinds of salt is the 1%, we'll do it.
The thing is, this is where people don't understand. Say that gives you that 1%. If you find 10 other things that can add you 1%, and you do that consistently over 12 months, that's every day more progress you're going to make.
Exactly. And the thing is, if you have this attitude where you're like, it's only 1%, the other way around, how many 1% did you leave out?
Yeah,
you can leave out a list of 10. All of them don't look big to you. They all look like little things, like posing after training. Sod it. Doing abs in the morning. Sod it. Doing that extra 5 minutes on the cardio. Sod it. If all those things get put to the side, that's a lot of stuff you're not doing that you should have been doing when you're trying to progress.
No, 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. Some more points we obviously wanted to go through. So in terms of, what would you say is your biggest mistake when it came to building muscle when you were younger? You said sort of what we touched on earlier, trying to train to be like a powerlifter maybe, because like you have got to be one of the strongest bodybuilders in the world.
But also there's been points where I probably could have gone that road definitely, because I was so focused on that. But I think probably even more of an issue than that was not knowing the importance of eating enough.
Would you think you are?
When I was younger, I didn't eat. Yeah, absolutely. And I would train every day without. So it wasn't, because I don't think you can really overtrain if you eat a lot. I really don't. I think if you're eating point and you're eating enough for your training, you can train as much as you like. I know people that train every day, but they eat really well. But I used to train every day and not eat well. I didn't have a clue. And I suppose part of that was not having the money, because I was young. And part of it was not having the education, knowing that really what builds muscle is food.
Yeah.
So I think in my younger years, I didn't realize the importance of food. I just thought it was effort alone, which was great, because I think if you're going to teach yourself something first, it's always good to have effort. Effort's a great starting tool, and then it's good to add food later, because food's not really. I think it takes more of a person to have the ability to tune in the gym, in my opinion, than to eat. Whereas there is many people that find it the other way around. They're like, "Oh, I find eating so easy, but going to the gym's hard." It just depends on the person. Me personally, I'm glad that I found effort first.
I think effort is the one thing that will take you to the very top, because you can learn to eat, but training like to that edge of like where you're going for it is a skill that you have to acquire, and that's not necessarily something you have unless you have the mind for it.
Yeah, Yeah, it's not something that's in everybody. I certainly noticed that, because we go to the gym, you only have to look around. You see who's there and really in there, and you see who's in there and half in there.
Yeah, you can see who's conscious of what they're actually doing, being present in the moment, and who's just dicking around for Instagram or whatever.
Presence is everything, man. Like, presence goes to all aspects of life. This is something I've been so keen on trying to pass on to people, is that if you're not present, you're not living.
No.
Life is presence, because you're only living now. You don't live in the past. You don't live in the future. If you're overly concerned with either one of those two, where are you right this minute?
No, 100%. I think it comes back to appreciating the small things in life. Like we talked about earlier before we came on the call, was about like how nice a day it is, the blue sky's out, and it's just already gives you a positive start for the day. It's being like having gratitude for these small things daily will add a positive mindset that will help you going on.
I think people forget to use these, and they're too often in here.
Yeah, 100%.
Because these are here. You've been granted these for a reason, to use them now. But, like, how many times have you walked down the road, got to a destination, and not even seen the walk there because you've been too busy in your own mind?
No,
and it's trying to teach yourself to be the opposite to that. See the journey. When you walk down to wherever you're going, let's say you're even just walking to the high street to get a coffee, take it all in. Look at the bricks on the houses. Look at the windows. Look at the designs of people's driveways. Like, appreciate just simple little things like that. Because so often we walk down a road and we're like preoccupied with thoughts of, how am I going to get to where I'm trying to get to next week? How am I going to get to where I want to get to next year? Like, that's all good, but life's short sometimes, and if you're not living today, you're going to get to the end of your story without really noticing anything, ever taking anything in.
You're too absorbed in your own self. Yeah. And like I did
brilliant, and I love how like a lot of social media influencers, like thoughts, like Kai Green, thoughts become things, but they don't if you're a procrastinator, and if you think and think,
just
don't take action, it doesn't lead to anything.
Yeah,
I just think. Yeah,
one of the greatest sayings I remember my dad said to me is like someone I think he admired was like a business guy. He had on his desk a sign that said, "Just do it now," and like that literally like was instilled for me. Like now, whenever I get an idea for something, I'm like, "Fuck, I'm just gonna do it now." Like,
go do it.
Do it today, because you might not get tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more things you do just now, the more things you can do. It's done. So
that being said, I think I overdo it sometimes, but it's a happy medium sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it's better to slightly overshoot than to not try hard enough.
Yeah, 100%. What's that saying? Is it better to shoot for the stars and land on the moon or something? I don't know, wherever it is.
Exactly. You still land on the moon. You still made it. Yeah, exactly. Still somewhere good.
Yeah, exactly. So it's better go to have big goals.
Yeah.
On talking of big goals, obviously the Olympia is coming up soon. What are your thoughts on that? Because that's quite a open debate in terms of who could be in the running for it, with obviously a lot of big names not in it this year.
It's an interesting one, because obviously 2 days ago, Hardy Japan got into the US.
I know, I saw that, and that's. But do they know if he's doing the 212 or the Open?
They haven't confirmed. Hardy Ramboard put a post up saying he hasn't chosen. There was speculation that it was the Open, which I think he should do, because I think he's a world-class bodybuilder in any body weight. I don't think he's a 212 alone. I think he's a fantastic 212, but I think he's also a fantastic open bodybuilder. And open bodybuilders got more money, more prestige, more acknowledgement.
It's the top of the top. Yeah, you go for it. It's like we were just saying, if you're going to do it, if you're going to go big. Like
that's it. Like don't. He has a choice here to either scale back purposely or go for the big time. Go for the big time, man. Honestly, I think he's a threat to the title. I honestly do. People say like it's like Marmite with Hardy Japan, because some people don't want to give him that kind of praise. But I look at bodybuilding for bodybuilding and what the what it always was and what was meant to be from it. It's structure, condition, separation, presentation. And Hardy Japan is a true professional in and out, like beyond anyone I've ever seen in terms of how he presents himself. He makes other people look like they're still amateurs. So pristine with his performance. He treats it so important. Like it's almost like he takes it more seriously than everyone else. And I think is a threat to anyone, no matter how genetically gifted. The open class, if he's in it, no one's safe. No one. And that goes for Brandon, who I love. I'm friendly. You know, I talked to Brandon. We messaged. He's been on my podcast a couple of times. He's a great guy. You know, Bonac, Dexter. Like Dexter is great, but Heidi's like shorter than him and got wider shoulders and more separation and more detail and more on the frame. So like, and Dexter's the greatest bodybuilder of all time. He's the most winningest bodybuilder of all time, and I still think Heidi Japan would be better. So that says, like, and I don't know, maybe I'm just a fanboy, but I just think he's another league.
No, be exciting to see.
I think he's another league when I saw him. But when you see him next to Nathan in Vancouver, Nathan is a bloody good bodybuilder, yeah? I've competed against him several times, and he smokes me, and I'm not a bad bodybuilder. But there's just some level to some people that is just different, and Heidi Japan is just this different category. It's almost like, I don't know, it's like he should be in a different league, like a league above the league. It is ridiculous.
Sets his own league.
But
what was
again, I don't sound proper passionate about it. It's just because I've never experienced someone who brings the class of the old school, but in a modern era with the size of the modern guys. And he is that guy.
But what I like what you said there is like basically the professionalism and the consistency. And like, again, that's something that like everyone will say the same thing about you in the same respect, is the consistency with what you do. Do you think there's like a lot of like ultimately I think bodybuilding is not like an overnight success where you're just going to train for 12 months and then be an elite level. So like, is there anything you think anyone who's listening to this who wants to maybe go a long way within fitness or bodybuilding that they could take from you in terms of how to build a consistent mindset?
It's so simple, Charlie. It's just, do you really want this? Like really, like if you really want, they said this is the thing. Your why has to be the biggest why in order to be the best. If your why isn't bigger than the next man's why, he's going to be better than you at this. And that's just the truth of it. There's nothing else to it. It's really simple. It's a simple formula. You either are in this for the long run and you're going to live this because it's a life. It's not temporary. But if you're trying to be a champion, it's not temporary. You can't have a temporary mindset. You can't think, oh yeah, I'll be done in 10 years. You can't even think of the end because you don't know when the end's coming because you can't monitor your progress and you can't choose how well you do. And at the same time, you can't be doing it for social media because you are going to spend, like I say, 22 hours of the day, 20 hours of the day without looking at your phone, hopefully, if you're not addicted. What are you going to do when no one's watching you? What's your drive then? Yeah? Like, are you still as driven when people aren't saying how cool you are and how big you are and how nice you look? Okay? Do you love living in the body you love living in? Do you love lifting the weights you're lifting? Or are you lifting the weights so that everyone around you loves what you're lifting? You know? Do you like eating the meat? Do you care about eating the meat? Like, that's honestly what it is. It's when no one's watching you, are you happy to be doing what you're doing? Because if you're not, then you're not in this for the reasons that are going to get you to the top level.
I love that. I think that's where it is a controversial statement. Do you think the popularity of fitness and bodybuilding is just increased because of social media? It's a cool in trend to do. 100%.
If Instagram didn't exist now, we'd have 50% probably less of people doing this. 100%. Because social media influencers, like, and I think it's great because they're tapping into something that's great. And I think fitness and activity is great regardless of why you do it, regardless of why. But I think then going a level above to be the representation of bodybuilding, which is much more cult, there has to be more to it than just that social media influence. I think the social media influence is great. I think if you can make a living out of it and you can utilize it and you can do things like me and you are doing right now and have fun with it, that's brilliant. It's a good life. It's a great life for anyone and people should chase that. But if you did take away social media, I know that people wouldn't have this tool to then manipulate in order to make a career.
Yeah.
And they would choose life because ultimately what's most important to most people is financial security, money, a home. I was doing bodybuilding when I was in my overdraft. I was doing bodybuilding when I was making less money than I was spending. Like, I had to do some silly things to make some money because I had no money, like to try and pay for my bodybuilding. And that's
passion.
When you're essentially at what people call rock bottom, but you're still doing it, that's when you truly love what you're doing because you don't give a shit. And that was me. Okay. And that's a lot of people I know. But tell me now, if social media wasn't paying half these people, what would they be doing? Would they care as much about their image as they do? In truth?
That's very, very, very good point. Very good point. And for me, like, obviously I dick around a lot and film a lot of stuff when I train, but for me, like, training's my passion, what I love to do. And it's not the bet for me to put my headphones on and going off on my own and with no one else there. And I've been in my own world. It's my escape from reality of the pressures of life, of whatever it is.
Absolutely.
On that day. It's the only moment of clarity and like purity you have, because in that moment you're conscious in what you're doing. There's nothing else that really matters. You're not thinking about, you got to pay this bill, you got stress at home or whatever it is.
Nothing else exists. Nothing else exists. Like, it's funny because even like my mum always used to say to me, like, you know, whenever anything bad was going on, anything, she's like, just go to the gym. Because she knows when I go to the gym, all these things that you say, these negative thoughts or overwhelming thoughts, they don't exist for a couple of hours. Gives you time to become level and come out and reset and go again. It's a break from everything. It's a release, and it's an important way of living. It's no different than someone who meditates. If someone disappears off into a quiet room to meditate, that's their way of dealing with life. And our way is going to the gym and exerting our energy and resetting the body.
100%. That's how I relax, to be fair. It's an aggressive way to relax, but it's what I love to do. So
it's a channeled aggression that equals kind of it gives you that kind of serenity, that balance that makes your soul feel cleansed.
Homeostasis.
Yeah, like just brings you back down to earth, because if you didn't release that energy, where would it go?
Yeah, and then like, but that you end up that pent up energy. You end up lashing out on the people around you who are closest to you a lot of the time, because you've got too much aggression built up in you.
Energy has to come out somewhere in some form, and a positive way of utilizing your energy is obviously in the gym. That's why physical activity in general, I think, is such a good thing for anyone who's trying to stay mentally healthy and not fight. You know, like, I think one of the biggest causes of like depression perhaps is lack of activity.
I 100% agree with that.
Like, I know people that face depression, and often what I've noticed is quite a lot of what's going on is they haven't found something for themselves that allows them to exert. And if they find something that allows them to exert heavily and get rid of a lot of the tension and energy that's negative, then the weight on their shoulders is a lot less, and the feeling of pressure and anxiety would be a lot less too.
No, 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. We'll start to wrap up here. One last question for you, James. Obviously, the big goal for you is to try and get to the Olympia stage. How are you feeling about that going forward? For obviously, you've got a big 12 months or so coming up, or 18 months, or whatever it is.
Honestly, like, I think it's very, very possible. I sent Chris photos the other day. He just said straight, he's a very simple man, doesn't say much. He said, yeah, you'll win a show next year. And that's all it takes. That's it.
When you make
belief is there.
If you're Vegas next year, I'm coming. I'll be there. I'll come watch.
Oh, definitely. I need a few. It'd be great to have some friends there, man. It's somewhere I haven't been yet, so I need to experience it with a few people. But I definitely see it coming. I haven't come this far to just come this far, and
I hate to participate.
I made great progress in the last year, and I learned a lot. But I feel like I'm going to learn even more now with Chris, and I think Chris strips things back enough to keep it basic enough that the formula isn't overwhelming, and it allows you to just take steps forward rather than guessing. You know, sometimes you just got to go back to the core material and just go. And I think I'm at that point now where I've taken in a lot of information and a lot of knowledge, but what will ultimately take me one step further now is reining back and just focusing on the goal.
Just being precise and consistent rather than overcomplicating.
Yeah, I don't need all the tools. I just need to focus and just go. Focus, go, and do not deviate. Because deviation is obviously a cause of stagnation, and I don't need that. I just want to channel in and go forward.
Head down.
So, head down and just go forward. Nothing changes. You know, it's the same thing as last year, and it's the same thing as the year before. It doesn't change. Until I reach where I want to reach, things won't change. And I'm happy to commit to that. I'm happy to say that that's what I'm going to do, and that's all I'm going to do. I
think it's one of those things, is like, I'm big into the law of attraction, like even what you just said there, that you will make that happen. Like if you put something out there into the world in terms of positive energy of like, this is gold, this is what I will achieve. Like you're telling people you'll do this, you will make it happen. You're making yourself accountable to do that. And in that respect, you create pressure on yourself. And you also, like, if you put that out into the world that you want to achieve this thing, then chances are it will actually happen, because you've said and like created the being of it almost.
You have. It's vocalizing something is a seed, and then the actions follow. And as long as you're someone that's willing to follow your voice, then it will happen. And I think as long as you're realistic with what you speak of, then there's no reason why you can't make it happen. And I've never said something that's too far ahead. I've never said, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I didn't ever say I want to be on the Olympia stage. I said I want a pro card. And it's about that. It's about not saying too much.
It's breaking down to small steps.
Yes. And that's repeated in this whole discussion we've had. It's about setting realistic goals, ones that can be achieved. And then just once you reach those, setting the next one and so forth, and just keep, slowly chipping away and adding to the pyramid that is, that step into the highest point, which will be the end goal, which you don't even know what it is until you get there. You won't know what it is because life changes and things along the way will steer you in directions that you never thought would probably be possible paths in front of you. You didn't think you could go left or right at this point, but then opportunities come and you take them and you arrive in destinations that perhaps shock you, but also make you realize how wonderful life is because it's so open and so vast.
You can achieve anything you want if you've got the right mindset to go and do it.
You can. You honestly can. As long as you're really actually genuinely feel what you're saying. If you genuinely want to get somewhere, you're not just saying it, then you will get there. But I think you have to acknowledge whether you genuinely feel that way or you're just saying it, because it's so easy to say and almost be convinced that it's really what you want. But if it's not, then are you going to get there? You have to really, it has to be so honest. It has to be an honest passion and an honest drive.
And you'll know that from within if you're being true to yourself.
100%. Of course you will, because you won't be able to, at the end of the day, you won't be able to keep it up if it's not genuine.
No,
it's not sustainable.
You'll be motivated, but then you won't be disciplined, because when the motivation wanes and you're not disciplined, you'll just fall apart.
What happens after motivation? When the motivation's lost, you have to have discipline to follow, and that's when you truly see what someone's made of and what they've really want from this life. Agreed.
That's when you find out why.
That's when you find out. Yeah, that's when you find out. Absolutely.
So we'll wrap this up here, Sir James. So thank you so much today. It's been super informative, and I'm sure it'll be truly inspirational for a lot of people. So people can find out about you. What's your Instagram handle?
So it's Hollingshead89, and the new algorithm on Instagram is messing me up, so I need some new followers.
Join the team. It's playing with everyone, but I think
it's different, isn't it? It's like that. And I'm not saying life's all about followers, but I have noticed it's kind of on.
Yeah, it's for everyone across the board. I think Facebook's playing games where they can start charging people for each. That'd be on the highlines. But and in terms of your podcast and other ways people can reach out to you.
Yeah, so 2 places really. Content-wise, if you just check out www.trainbyjp.com, obviously all my videos, the forums are on there where we answer questions daily. So if you have any questions, if we had any questions like the show, just fire them on there, and I try and answer them my best. Sometimes I'm very blunt because I've said this to you before, Charlie. I don't see the purpose of being ultimately scientific, because I think a lot of people in this industry are trying to do that. Yeah. So I'll just give you my straight answer. So I'll just say yes, no, this is what I do, in my opinion. So that's one place where you can catch us. And then the second is I have a podcast on the go. We record every now and then. It's not really structured, but the Size Game podcast, which is on Instagram as well, which is just the Size Game. And that's pretty cool as well. That's more bodybuilding related, but it's always somewhere if you want to, again, listeners' questions and stuff, it's another place for you to kind of put those.
Cool. Well, absolute pleasure today, James. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your rest day and get ready for your training session tomorrow. What are you training tomorrow?
Tomorrow is our push day, so it's going to be great. It's going to be nice. It's always a nice one because it's the t-shirt muscles.
It's easier to do the 3 on push-pull legs.
It's the chest, shoulders, and triceps. It makes you feel really good.
Love it.
Yeah, it'll be a good day. Hopefully the weather holds out.
Yeah, pleasure. Thank you very much, mate.